السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر.
الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل وسلم.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الناس أوصيكم نفسي بتقوى الله. وقال الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَتَوَكَّلُوا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we must put our trust and our reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if indeed we are truly believers. We claim to be having iman, claim to be among that special set of human beings who are believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mu'mineen. One of the requirements for us to truly be believers is that we must put our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another verse also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala similarly says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, truly, the only believers, the true believers, are those people who, when Allah's name is mentioned, their hearts become fearful. When His verses are recited to them, it increases them in faith, and upon their Lord they put their trust and their reliance. The Prophet ﷺ, in numerous places in the Quran, as well as the earlier prophets, was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put his trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is a foundational quality of the heart that every believer must possess. And especially in these days which are leading up to the commemoration of the Hajj and the events that commemorates and reminds us of, especially in this time, going back to the story of Ibrahim and Ismail and his wife Hajar, and all the sacrifices that people make for the sake of the Hajj. This is especially a time in which we should reflect upon and understand and make sure that in our lives we have the quality of putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is one of the many messages, or one of the many teachings, one of the many things that we can reflect upon during these blessed days and during this blessed event. We can see in the life of the Prophet Ibrahim and his family how they put their trust, their complete trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all know the story. We all know how the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is going to leave his family, his wife, his young child, both of them whom are beloved to him. He's going to leave them alone in the barren desert. There's no civilization around. There's no life around. In fact, there's even no sign of water around. What gave Ibrahim alayhi salam the strength and the courage and the willingness to do that? Except that he knew that this was a command coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he trusted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he put his faith and he put his reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he had no need to fear. And as he's leaving his family, his wife is calling out to him. And he's just walking away silently. And then finally Hajar asked him, Allahu alladhi amaraka bihada? Is it Allah who has ordered you to do this? And when he replied, yes, it is Allah that has ordered me to do this. It is Allah who has ordered me to leave you alone in this barren land. But once you heard that this is a command coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, also her response was, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to leave us. This is part of Allah's plan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of us in the proper manner. And so she obviously had to also put her trust and her reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a beautiful time that we are living in which we can reflect. When we make Hajj, we implement some of the actions that remind us clearly about the state that Hajj was in. And that's also one of the important things. That we can understand about putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not mean that when we look at the worldly causes, we don't also seek after those worldly causes as well. We don't say to ourselves, for example, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm putting my trust that Allah will take care of everything. And then we don't do anything ourselves. Actually, it is part of having the proper trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we follow the worldly asbab that are available to us. And again, we see this in the example of Hajj. it was clear that she's putting her trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as we know, and as we go from the hills of Safa and Marwa, as we know, she didn't just sit there and wait for water to appear or wait for help or whatever, but she took whatever means were available to her all along while putting her trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She took whatever means were available to her. And when you follow the means, this is actually a sign. This is actually a sign that you are really hoping for and trying to achieve some goal. Even when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for some purpose, you still follow as a sign that you mean that dua, you still follow whatever means are available to you. Some people have a completely incorrect understanding of putting their trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they think that they just say with their tongues or in their hearts or whatever the case might be, that they put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they expect everything then to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not the proper means of implementing, putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, even with respect to the pandemic, I've heard of Muslims who, for example, they refuse to social distance, they refuse to wear a mask, they refuse to get vaccinated, and then they say, I'm just going to put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This kind of understanding, this is not the proper way of putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is even worse, they don't take these measures that can help someone protect themselves. They don't take these measures, and on top of that, they think this is a sign of taqwa from themselves, that they're not doing anything and they're just relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They actually think this reflects taqwa. That you just say, okay, whatever happens, I don't have to do anything. Allah is going to take care of it, and I'm showing this is my trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you think Hajar did not have trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? She did not sit there and not do anything. You think the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was commanded in the Quran to put his trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you think the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not put his trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And yet when you look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though on different occasions he knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would protect him, he knew that Islam would eventually become dominant, and yet what we find in his example is that he took every step available to him. Even though he is a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he took every step available to him to protect the believers, to make the believers successful and so on. So his example is that you follow the asbab while your heart is not attached to those asbab. We know that these asbab by themselves are not going to bring about the result unless Allah wills. But physically we follow the asbab while our hearts are attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the trust and reliance and the hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will bring about the desired result. Not only in the example of the Prophet ﷺ, but also in his words. The Prophet ﷺ was once asked by an individual, should I tie my camel down and put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or should I just let my camel roam and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm not going to lose it, nothing's going to happen? Essentially what he asked the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, "I'qilha wa tawakkal." Tie it down and put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So follow the asbab. So the real taqwa is to take the example and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to apply those in your lives. So the true manifestation of putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mean that we ignore and act in the face of the worldly asbab that we see in front of us. So that's one of the main one of the main misconceptions that people have. And as I said, what's even worse about that misconception is they think that the opposite of what they should be doing, they think somehow that is a type of taqwa. There's also another very important misconception regarding tawakkul as well. And that is where we take it upon ourselves to already determine what should be the result of us putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we put our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the proper way, in reality, we are turning everything over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are turning everything over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that also includes the results, the end result of what's going to happen. We are accepting and putting our trust in Allah. We know that Allah is knowledgeable, He is wise, He is compassionate, He fulfills whatever He wills. And so we turn our entire affairs over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why, for example, when we make the dua of istikhara, when we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, we make it very clear in that dua that we are seeking His guidance, that we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if you know this action is good for me, then bring it to me. If you know that this action is not good for me, then turn it away from me and let me be pleased with what you have decreed. So sometimes we're working for, let's say, a job or college degree or whatever, and we say, I put my trust, even if we follow the asbab, even if we do what we can, then we say that I put my trust in Allah. And then when that thing doesn't work out, when you don't get that job, when you don't get that degree, when you don't get married or have a child or whatever, sometimes the individual gets upset. I've had people come to me and say things like, I don't understand. I put my trust in Allah and it didn't happen. That means you put your trust in Allah, that Allah will do whatever you want. You do not turn the affairs over to Allah and really put your trust and reliance that Allah will bring about whatever is best. And what is best might mean preventing you from that thing which is in your mind. That job, that degree, that marriage, that might have been such a great fitna for you that you would not have been able to handle. It might have been much more harmful for you than good. And that's what happens when you turn things over to Allah. And you put your complete trust and reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are now ready to accept. You are now ready to accept and happy and willing to accept whatever Allah decrees for you in the end. And it doesn't mean that you are commanding Allah to bring this about and you're saying, I trust that you will do it for me. This is not truly turning all of your affairs over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is kind of like a conditional tawakkul. I will trust you as long as you bring me the result that I have already decided should come about. So as I said, we follow the asbab. We might have a certain goal. We work towards it. We try to bring it to fruition. But we always recognize that those asbab that we're following, those worldly causes that we're following, they in themselves cannot bring about the end result unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it. So we put our heart is attached to Allah, knowing that He is the one who's either going to bring about that result or not. But if our heart is truly attached to Allah, and we turn everything over to Him, then we know that Allah is going to bring about the best for us, inshallah, and we're ready to accept it and move on from there. Because what we want, what we desire, what we want is obviously always not what is best for us. Or it's not always what is best for us. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'd. There's also another very important aspect when it comes to putting our trust and reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a little bit different shade of meaning. But we also have to have complete trust and reliance in the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. Who is truer in speech than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have to have full and complete confidence and trust that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran is true and is a reality. And this trust in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, obviously, like all other forms, it cannot just stop at some kind of theoretical belief in the Quran. That yes, I know that verse is true, but it needs to be internalized. That we understand that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, Allah is the one who knows, we do, and we are very limited in our knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually reminds us of that in different occasions. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. In reality, it is Allah who knows, and you do not know. Sometimes, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, again, sometimes we might like something, and that thing that we like may not actually be good for us. And we may dislike something. These are our personal likes and dislikes for something. And that thing that we personally dislike, that actually might be good for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرُهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, perhaps there's something that you dislike, and actually it is better for you. And perhaps there is something that you like, and actually it is worse for you. And then after saying that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Because in the end, in reality, it is Allah who knows, and you do not know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse, in which He's reminding us that not everything necessarily that we see as good might be good for us, and not everything that we think is as harmful is necessarily harmful for us. Allah knows, it is Allah who knows. It should be clear to us, obviously Allah knows, but alhamdulillah, actually in His mercy, actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us at this point that He knows, and in reality, we do not know. How many are the verses in the Quran? How many are the verses in the Quran that we read, but we don't in reality, for whatever reason, maybe because what we see in reality doesn't seem to fit what we're reading, maybe because of our limited knowledge? How many verses are there that we see it and we don't really believe that it's like 100% true, or that it is a reality, and it is always a reality? For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِن يَنْصُرْكُمُ اللَّهُ فَلَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ. If you help Allah, if you're going to work for the sake of Allah, no one can overcome you. Even with respect to tawakkul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. In these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if we have taqwa, Allah will provide a way out for us. If we're having any difficulty, Allah is going to provide a way out for us and provide for us in ways that we did not expect. And whoever puts his trust and reliance on Allah, Allah will suffice for him. How many times have we given up, maybe even turned to something haram, do something not right, because we are seeking something or we're under pressure, and instead of having taqwa, where the end result will be good, because Allah has promised that, and instead of putting our trust in Allah, and Allah will suffice for us, as Allah has told us that, this is not how we behave. Even if we know those verses, even if we read those verses, somehow there's not a complete trust in those verses. When you look at the example of many Muslims nowadays, when it comes to the guidance of the Quran for society, what is right and wrong, what are true rights, what are not rights, and so forth, what people should be allowed to do, not to do. How many Muslims still have the trust in the Quran, that the guidance of the Quran is still the best guidance for humankind, and it'll always be the best guidance for humankind? Just look at our Muslim societies and see how many are really living up to that and implementing. So as I said, alhamdulillah, we're living in a very blessed days that come to us each year. Many lessons, alhamdulillah, many lessons and teachings that we can reflect on and benefit from. So let's not let these days pass, inshallah, without, inshallah, reflecting on certain things. And one of the messages that we clearly get from all of the events related to the Hajj is putting our trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's make sure, inshallah, that we understand the concept properly and inshallah also apply it correctly in our lives. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. اللهم صل.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر.
الله
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة وزرابي مبثوثة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام. أستغفر.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. If I can have your attention, inshallah. Announcements related to Eid and important announcements you might want to listen in, inshallah. First off, may Allah reward and bless Sheikh Jamaal for the powerful reminder and give us the ability to follow, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. So as you all know, Eid al-Adha is going to be on the 20th of July, which is Tuesday. Inshallah, we'll be praying this time in Elgrove Park as a unified Eid, 3 shifts. You may have seen the flyer. If you have not, take a look at the flyer so you can see the address if you have not been to Elgrove Park, although majority of the community knows it's a big park in Elgrove, the biggest one, I believe. So it's a well-known park, Elgrove Park. 3 time slots for Salat al-Eid, 7 a.m. first shift, 8 a.m. second, and 9 a.m. So 3 salawat of Eid will happen for the community to come and be able to pray. Please follow guidelines, wear a mask, and you can see the poster or newsletter or Masjid al-Noor's social media for that flyer so you can get the information there. At the same park on Saturday, 31st of July, we'll have a Eid family event where we're going to have from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. rides for the kids, food trucks, and vendors. So if you're interested in sponsoring, please contact Brother Harun. Again, that is going to be Saturday the 31st. Tonight, inshallah, we have a Friday night program. Very important, so we invite all of you. There's going to be talks by Sheikh Ammar, Shaheen, Sheikh Ahmed Khatab, and Sheikh Yusuf on taking advantage and what to focus on, virtues of the Hijjah, the journey of Hajj, preparing for Arafah, etc. So Q&A as well. So please join us. That's going to be at Maghrib time here at Masjid al-Noor. A Noor Boys Camp is going to be September 3rd to 5th. Please sign up online. Spots are limited. The Sheriff Station is holding an event and sharing safety tips for the youth and fingerprinting. That's going to be on July 21st. Food vendor Falafel and Gyro will be there as well. Today we have membership drive outside. A table is set up in the hallway. Please do sign up. Last day to become a member is September 25th in order to be able to vote for the executive committee elections. So September is a little while from now, but we tend to forget. So if you get a chance, do it today and get that out of the way, inshallah ta'ala. Also, as you know, these are the best days of the year, and today is the best day of the week. So please do donate what you can to the masjid, get the reward, do good deeds, inshallah. And another thing we request you is to make dua for a couple of our community members who are having surgery today related to the disease of cancer. Brother Bilal Rashid and Brother Jamaal Abushi. Please keep them in your dua. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
وعليكم السلام.
It's changing? Nothing? Not here? Sure? 5:15 Iqamah? Also, Fajr time is changing to 5:15 from tomorrow. Fajr is going to be 5:15 a.m. from tomorrow. So, I'm not secretary.